Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the meeting today. Hope everyone is doing okay. It's a little cloudy here in Ames. It might rain. Looks like any minute here. Ursula and I are in the same town and, well, usually in the same station, but I am working from my house today. And I just looked online and I see that we have 649 cases of COVID today. So I was still working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
working on it is one way to put it.
Yeah, that's the nice way to put it, I suppose. And we did have some good news, though. Our governor, Kim Reynolds, signed into law that felons who've served their time, they can vote. So that was a big deal. That was a nice thing to hear. Ursula and I had a good meeting with our
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
the podcaster website that we're going to have very, 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 very even more sooner than last time. It's getting really good, and they've had some really nice ideas. So we were excited to hear that and see that. So we'll be excited to share that with you guys. And I think that's about it.
They had a whole bunch of clouds drifting around the website.
Yeah, they got some like animations going on, and
Not down with the clouds.
they had some fun with the look of it. So yeah, I think it could be fun looking websites. Let's see. I'm gonna pass it. Oh, Eugene, you could make it. Oh, that's really awesome. Nice. Okay, Eugene's gonna talk too. He has some information on battery backups. I think that will be good. That will go nice with John's regular power backup. So why don't I'll pass it over to Eugene to see how you're doing since I saw you come in, and just give us a little 2-minute kind of intro of how your life is.
Oh, I just got back from a nice bike ride, so it's
Nice.
beautiful outside. But our governor just tested positive before he was to meet with Trump today. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Eugene, where are you?
Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah, Ohio is even worse than Iowa, right?
It's heading back up. Although last time I checked, early part of this week, it was trending downward, but it's still pretty high. And Columbus is one of Deborah Birx's 9 hotspot cities right now, she says. But just real quick for your information, the woman next door had it in March. She got it from Seattle when she was staying there in March, came back to stay with her parents in Columbus next door to us. And she got over it in 4 weeks, but now things are coming back. She's got fever returning. She's got extreme fatigue. It's not as bad as it was, but it's just, it won't let go, you know?
Man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like I've been hearing reports of that too, that people keep having these other issues that won't go away after they have it, the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else going on with you at your station?
Well, our programming director just resigned, the programming manager. And she was doing a really great job for 4 years, our first 4 years. So we're trying to fill the gap, and it's hard because she has experience in college radio for many years. And
Who was that? What was her name?
Victoria Parks. She has a couple of shows on.
Oh, it was Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Folk Soup is really good.
Yeah.
Hodgepodge of some really great country and regular folk music, you know.
But you're at WGRN?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In parentheses after the opposite.
Yeah, Victoria left, huh?
Well, she wanted to concentrate more on her musical
Mm-hmm.
pursuits in retirement, you know. And
Yeah, I understand.
by the way, I'm wearing
See
my
that?
K-Mud shirt. I don't know if you can read that. Redwood Community Radio.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eugene. Do you want to pass it on to someone else?
Let's see. John, have we heard from John Fox yet? I can't remember.
No, we haven't. And I'll give you a little longer too, John Fox, and 2 minutes with the new people if you want, just so we can get to know everyone a little bit better. Oh, you're muted, John.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. Doing this on the phone today so I can walk you around the station for when we talk about the power backups. But here in California, as you know, leading the world in infection rates and such, our own zip code here is at 51 cases, no deaths. And it's a fairly sparsely populated zip code, so that's still a significant number. One of the things I wanted to mention to you guys, you've probably discussed this before, is that obviously in these odd times for getting revenue for your stations, we've had something of a windfall when it comes to paid PSAs. We've had, thanks to grants, we've had requests from Indian Health Council, the San Diego Registrar of Voters, the census. Of course, they seem to be winding down now, but we've had more paid PSAs than ever before this year, so that's been a bit of a boon for us. And other than that, we're still hunkered down. The station's on lockdown. I'm here working alone. Other federal grants have come through that are allowing us to buy some additional remote equipment. So rather than have to share remote codecs, we're now getting 2 more. And
What kind of federal grants?
honestly, I don't know. It's the tribe got the grant. It's from FEMA. I don't know what the program is, but they said, do you want a chunk of it? I said, how much? They said, what do you want? I gave them a list and they approved about half of it. So other than that, yeah, just maintaining.
Okay, great. Why don't you pass it to somebody?
Well, the particular app on my phone I'm looking at, I don't see the list of who's there. So maybe.
Oh, okay. I can help you with that.
I know Joe Orozco's there.
Yeah, he sure is. Why don't you go next, Joe?
Okay, here I am from the Greater Hoopa Valley. And we're catching up with everybody, as John says. I've been saying we had 1 case back in a couple of months ago, but now we had, as of Tuesday, we had 6. And as of today, we have 19. So it's been escalating really fast on us. And we are a small population of 3,000, maybe 4,000 people, but we're confined in a small valley. So everybody has 1 post office, 1 store. The schools are going on distance learning for the first 6 weeks and see how that goes and see if they have to expand it further. So that's the outlook there. Our tribal chairman started yesterday with a daily COVID-19 update. So they have been meeting almost daily on that. They have their task force, their incident command center, and the public information officer and the lead physicians at the clinic. They've been meeting daily. So he decided to have a live call-in program starting at 12 noon. So we just got off that about 1:45. It was the 2nd edition. So we're trying to stay on top of it. And we've got curfews in place. We've got We're monitoring anybody who has been detected as being exposed to COVID. They're doing testing as fast as they can, but they're limited to about 30, I believe. I was taking notes during the call. So we're doing the best we can to keep a lid on it. And well, we got 3 people here at the station. The chairman today let us know that, and he's announced it on the radio and during this program, that he wants to continue to do these daily programs at 12 noon on Saturday and Sunday. Well, we don't work on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, we just got 3 people. So,
15
well,
seconds.
our engineer lives by himself, he has no family. The other 2 people have family and households to take care of. So I asked the chairman, could you give us some help? We just need somebody to answer the phone, just what I was doing today. Just answer the phone. All we need, and the other guy can do all the other work. So we're looking into that. Hopefully we'll have somebody by this Saturday. I'll pass it on to Kevin.
All right. Can you hear me okay? I hope.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm using a computer I don't normally use. Here in Trenton, capital city of the state of New Jersey, things are fairly steady. No great peak, but overall in the state, things are going back up again like everywhere else. We thought we had it under control, and now our governor's rethinking that. And so, you know, take it day by day. At the station, we're still, I'm on a campus and we're still completely closed. So I'm the only one coming in, trying to get things done. We have DJs doing shows remotely, not entirely, but a good number of them. So we're continuing on.
Right on, right on.
I should pass it off to, how about Sandra Forrest?
Hey everyone, good to see everyone. Good to see Eugene. I dropped the ball and we're trying to get with you around this very same topic, so I'm glad we'll be able to do it today. It's just too much going on. So I'm here representing on behalf of WBPU FM in St. Pete, Florida, Black Power 96, and we we had about 5 core staff that was continuing to come in. One was ill with COVID and has had quite a significant symptoms, and then end up recovering and is back in. The whole station got shut down briefly because another one of the core staff volunteers tested positive. She did not have any symptoms. And she has since gotten a negative test, but everyone else was required to get a negative test before coming back in, people who had been exposed to them. So that's the protocol that we're following, that you know, if people are exposed, to get a negative test, which is quite challenging because you can wait weeks in Florida to get the results of your test, or you can wait hours at the testing site, go at 6 o'clock in the morning and get tested at 4, waiting in the hot heat. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So dealing with that, but you know, on the upswing, people are doing well. No one has died. And let's see. Just got a great load of Pacifica archival files. So Ursula, thank you for hooking us up with Sean. He was really helpful, and just got a lot of material that we're going through. So we're kind of excited about that. So looking forward to this presentation because we're in the midst of hurricane or summer storm season, and we're getting knocked off the air at least once a week. So, you know, we have a little rack mount UPS boxes, but the outages are usually longer than 5 or 10 minutes. So we need a bigger solution. So looking forward to this. Thank you.
Right on. Let's see, is there anyone? Oh, and Sharon's here. Oh, good deal. Okay. We've got Ursula. Why don't you go next, Ursula?
Needed that. She could
Okay. As Stephanie said, we're in a college town, a university town, and the majority of our population are students, and the university is now opening as of this week, and so it's on for us. We're we're all getting ready for a pretty rapid spike in our community. So it's hold on just a minute. Okay, sorry. So we're keeping the station closed because I think everybody in the community is pretty sure things are going to get a whole lot worse before they get better. That we're kind of a little bit in the position you are in, Joseph. We've had it pretty good until now, and now it's not going to be good. So we're keeping the station closed. It's hard to keep people connected to the station. One of the things that we've stumbled across, I don't know, not even really intentionally, is we put a few of our programs on, since they were already on Zoom, we just threw them on Facebook too and did Facebook Live them and got this huge following right away and for no apparent reason. So it was kind of an interesting discovery of a whole new audience that we hadn't even really thought about that much. And so that was just kind of a new platform that we just kind of stumbled across. I mean, we knew about it, but we just never really thought it would be that successful. So that's kind of fun. Just that we do this weekly show called Radio Social where people just get on and informally talk, and people from all over the world kind of join us. And we put that on Facebook, and it gets a lot of followers, and it even gets haters. So we're very flattered by all the attention it's getting, considering that we're not doing that much, except just talking about what's happening to us. So anyway, that was kind of.
Ursula, are you saying that you're doing Zoom meetings and you're able to put that directly onto Facebook Live?
Yeah, we just connected to Facebook Live, and yeah, exactly. And that the music we play on the air doesn't really get onto the Zoom. I mean, you don't really hear it that much, so Facebook doesn't really detect it. And so it's all talk, and it works fine. And it just naturally gets followers. I do, John, I'd love to talk to whoever at your station got the FEMA grant. I've been really upset with my board of directors because they have not gone after the FEMA grants, and I'm still convinced that there's money there that's being left on the table. So if there's somebody at your station that would be willing to talk to me, I'd really like to talk to them, because I think we need more money. I mean, I think
it would be the tribal government, and I'm not sure that it isn't because it's a reservation, but I'll check.
That's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. But I mean, FEMA did come to our county and offer everybody money. And so it's possible that the categories, I'm also struggling to see if it's possible, if there's any loopholes in the CSG grant process that would make it a little bit easier for some of us to get money. Yeah. So, and as Stephanie said, we're kind of excited because we're going to start our podcast website for podcast hosting for Pacifica Network probably within a week. And that's just going to be fun to have a new platform. And let me see, Alicia, I don't think you've gone.
I just came in right now. Sorry, I'm so late.
Oh, that's okay.
So is there a specific question or just?
We're just doing our little 2-minute introductions. How's it going?
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with us right now. I think a lot for us, we're being hit in Sonoma County very hard. A lot of the deaths, we had, almost double the deaths, and they're coming out of the assisted living or, healthcare, facilities. And it's the age group, my age group, over 65, but people have illnesses. So we're starting right now to do more. We're going to start doing it. I guess the county's going to start doing enforcement of, just if $100 for the first time, if people are gathering more than 12, I think, and somebody reports them and they give them citations and $100 fines, and for businesses, 200, 500 or whatever. But we're trying to just continue, especially at the radio, doing more Edgar and I are working on doing some programming where we're trying to interview people. We're going to base it for a grant that we're applying for, and talking, having almost like the people that we know are programmers who may know somebody else, sort of become the journalists instead of us going out, that they sort of talk to each other and find out like the whole cultural differences. I mean, what's going on? What do we need to do to try to put more emphasis on people wearing masks, on that social distance, and just talking, and also talking to parents more about how they're dealing with all of this right now. Because I told Edgar that I really want to talk to a lot more parents, and part of me feels like I want to provoke them into crying, if that makes any sense to anybody. But I think that we need to grieve. I think we need to grieve what's going on right now, and I feel like especially parents who have kids, and it just reminded me of and the children, to talk to them how they're dealing with all of this, because there's so much pressure going on in the Latino community. The parents going through being forced to go out to work. And where do they leave the kids, and sometimes you live in a with other group of people there that, they're just people that house with you, but maybe they're not even people, and the stress of that. And just I don't know, I used to do sexual harassment cases, and I used to prepare the women for deposition, and I never actually talk about when we would do the sessions, we never talked about even the case. We just talked about, having them grieve all the, just crying. And I told Edgar that I feel that right now. I feel like parents, especially the mothers, they need to just, really, in Spanish, we say desahogar, which means like I don't like the word in English, purging. I mean, desahogar is like, you kind of just let it out, let all of this. And I very much want to talk, being a union organizer for so many years, I feel like I want to talk to the community more and have them talk to each other, and for us to come up with creative programs on the air. And I'm hoping we will accomplish that, because it's hard trying to go out and talk to people, and having people by phone talk to you or Zooming. It's not the same as one-on-one. But anyway, thanks so very much.
The word that comes to my mind is catharsis.
Does
that sound similar to what?
Sort of, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is that. It's in Spanish, it's desahogarse. It sounds almost like it's sort of like a more spiritual thing than where the word, yeah. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. Part of it is the grieving. I think that we sort of, many of us have to really, grieve what's going on, what's happening to us, what's going on. And I think sometimes, and in grieving, I always feel like we get stronger, we're able to have more strength to move on and all that. But it's, I think in the United States, sometimes I feel like we, like in other countries, there's the wailing, the screaming out, the crying, and I think in the United States, our culture sometimes doesn't allow us to do that, the grieving. We move on, get over it, and move on to the next thing, and our life is much
that's a really
faster.
good point.
So
yeah, we could do better to get in touch with our emotions here.
yeah,
Alicia.
and and some people, like one of my brothers, my brother always says, I have to call you when I want to cry, because you always remind me that if I start crying, I'm gonna be able to stop, because I get scared that if I start crying, I won't be able to stop. So, so he always says, I gotta call you and tell you I'm gonna start crying. So talk to me right now. But I come from a family that oh my God, we're just one big mush. So And we just t- tell our feelings with no, sometimes, we just let people know our feelings. So,
It
anyway.
sounds healthy to me. Okay, well, let's move on to, I know Vertical/Aaron says that he's having microphone problems, so we'll just wave to him. Hi, Aaron, how you doing? But he can hear us. And we have Bobby J. Are you able to talk with us, Bobby J? Can you does your microphone work?
Yes, how's everybody doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good, good.
What's going on?
Well, I'm kind of new to this call. I kind of actually got a alert that this meeting was going on, so this is my first time chiming in. So I'm from KOYO in Oroville, California.
Welcome,
And
Bobby. It's good to
Yeah,
have
glad
you.
you could join us.
Ursula. I get lots of emails from you and your crew, so I really appreciate Pacifica Radio. And so I'm just trying to see how our radio station could get more ideas, just as well as we have our successes, along with some of our failures, being able to share with others, hopefully to help out your community radio or college radio. And so what really kind of triggered it was I saw the email chain of the Breonna Taylor thing that's going on August the 13th. So I started looking more into it, and I responded back to the email that we're in like Flynn. And it was funny when I thought about the word Flynn, I was like, I know that was a term that I used when I was growing up. So it made me look up the word. So when I looked it up, I guess it's a mixture of fail or win. So I was just like, whether if it's successful or not, we're in, because we're supporting what's going on with the injustice that's going on throughout the world. And so that's kind of how this triggered. So I'm just kind of here to listen and share what I could share about our radio station. But I just thank you for just having a platform for community radio stations to just kind of come together and talk about things that we are all doing.
Fantastic. We're so glad you could join us. And is that everybody? Oh yeah, Sharon, thank you.
Hey, I'll pick up there. Great to hear from you, Bobby J. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sharon Scott. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, home of Breonna Taylor. We are at WXOX. We're a community radio station here in downtown Louisville. And we're primarily a music and arts focused radio station, but with the pandemic and now being, really at the center of the new civil rights movement, we've become more than we ever imagined we could be. The DJs are all still alive. They're all remoting from home. I'm at the studio now. My husband Sean is the engineer, and our son Max is the mascot. And then besides that, nobody's coming down here except for DJ Hal, who kind of runs the place. But our DJs have really, found their voice. They've found their power. They're realizing how important they are right now to the community, to inspire people to stand up for what's right and to ease their fears about the pandemic and to provide them with the information they need to stay safe. So I imagine a lot of radio stations are kind of going through this moment now. When it used to all just be fun and games and playing a lot of music and enjoying ourselves, now it's a much heavier responsibility to be community broadcasters. I mean, I think it's always been there. It's just now we're really realizing it. So all our DJs have been doing a great job with their shows and taking everything that's going on here very seriously. We've been broadcasting live from the protests and really connecting with the people in the movement and trying to get the word out about, what's going on here. Why are people so upset? What's happening with this case, which is nothing. One of my colleagues and I, Tia Coatley, who's one of our amazing DJs, we reached out to Breonna Taylor's family and we asked them for a song that Breonna would have liked us to play in her honor and in honor of all the women who have died at the hands of police brutality. And came up with, they said the song called Everything by Mary J. Blige was one of her very favorite songs at the time of her passing. So we're coordinating an effort for next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, that as many stations as we can, we'd like for them to play that song in honor of Breonna Taylor and the other women that have died at the hands of police brutality. And we're also doing a small piece, a short 5, maybe 10-minute piece that will accompany that for stations who want, the first step is just get everybody to play that song at the same time. If you want to go a step further and play this piece that we're pulling together that will include a statement from Breonna's family, a reading of names, as well as some of the audio from the protests here in Louisville. We'll be providing that through audio port, and then I can also email it out to folks. So that's next Thursday, August 13th, 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to participate, some of you have already sent me your call letters and your station, your city of license, so that we can put out a press release about all the stations that are participating. But we did this earlier in the year. We did a movement like this for George Floyd, and it was extremely successful. I think we got over 50, maybe close to 60 stations participating, and it's just a really amazing moment when we all connect. I mean, to me, it's just really big to think about that all these stations across the country are playing this song at one time. And I love that action. And I think that it's something we can do for other situations as well. But we'd love for you guys to join us. Again, send me your call letters and station of license if you want to participate. And then I have one more announcement.
Is this 2 o'clock Eastern time?
2 o'clock Eastern time, yeah. The email I sent to the listserv, I have broke it down what time it might be in your time zone, because that math always tricks me up. But I think that would be great. We'd love for you all to participate. The more stations, the better. And her family's very excited about that. They say that she just loved music, and this would really mean so much to her. So we've fallen in love with Breonna Taylor. She's a beautiful person. And the more we've gotten to know about her, the more we realize what a tragedy this is, and how terrible that nothing has happened. One police officer has been fired, 2 are still on the force, and there's been a real suppression of information from the city. We're gathering that the mayor is involved in some kind of gentrification plan that resulted in her death. So anyway, I know I'm about to go over my time, but while I'm here, Stephanie, if you don't mind, I do have an announcement also, and I'd love feedback on that as well. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime about that movement. But I have the good news. I know everybody's been waiting. We were supposed to host the Grassroots Radio Conference here in Louisville this year. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this year's in-person conference has to be postponed. But because it's such an important year, there's so much going on, and it's so important that all of our stations are in contact and sharing information. We are going to do, we're calling it a virtual summit, because it's not going to be the giant Grassroots Radio Conference as always, but we would like to focus this 3-day summit on 3 issues, which are the pandemic, the protests and the justice movement, and the presidential election. So we're going to host that online virtually from October 9th to the 11th. And we're planning to focus each day on a different one of those topics. One day we'll deal with the pandemic, one day we'll deal with the protests, and one day we'll deal with the upcoming presidential election. So we'll be sending out calls for anyone who would like to present, and we'd like speakers. We'll probably do a few round tables, but we really want it all to focus on those 3 topics at this time. But there's lots of ways to, I, for instance, want to do another session on remote broadcasting, which ties into the pandemic and the fact that we're not all able to be in studio. So if you can, it can be, it doesn't have to be specifically, this is about the pandemic, but something that in some way is related to one of those 3 issues. But we'll send out you guys are the first to know beyond our staff that's working on this. And we'll be sending out a save the date as well as a call for participants within the next week or so. So look out for that. So I think it'll be really fun. I want to thank again Ursula and Stephanie for making these events happen, because this has been my first foray into the virtual meeting world. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of advice and good information from you guys. And definitely just doing these has really helped out a lot and showing how important it is for us to continue to connect, even though we're not able to be together in person. So hope you guys will be able to participate in both those events, the conference and this event next week. And I guess that's all I have for now. And I may have just, so I don't see Miriam, I have some renovation going on in the studio, so I may have to split out early. But anyway, great to see you all. And Bobby, welcome, welcome. I hope you'll enjoy coming back here and checking in with community radio. I had to miss last week. It was such a bummer. So anyway, thank you all. Great to see you.
Thank you,
I
Sharon.
mean, it's got the 189.99 cross.
I see there is one more. I see a 1404 number. Who's that? Who dat?
Yes, this is Heather in Atlanta.
What's your, I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Pardon me?
What's your first name?
Heather Gray?
Oh, Heather. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
Do you want to say hi, Heather, and how you're doing?
Well, I just want to say hello to everyone. I'm with WRFG in Atlanta, Georgia. It was founded thanks to WBAI in 1972 because our founder was in New York and heard WBAI and he said, we need to have something like that in Atlanta. I've probably mentioned this to other folks on this call before, but so we are the only community radio station in the city of Atlanta, and we have a whole range of public affairs and music and you name it, we've got it. And in fact, I know there's been a lot of stuff in the news about John Lewis, who is somebody I've worked with a lot in the past, and he was involved in the early founding of WRFG actually. But so I don't need to go into any kind of lengthy whatever, except for the fact that I do want to mention that quite a few of us at WRFG are now involved in attempting to have a new trial for Jamil El-Amin. I don't know how many of you all are aware of Jamil El-Amin. He was H. Brown, a member of SNCC in the 1960s. He was accused of, and he was the imam here in Atlanta for quite a while. His brother, Ed Brown, actually was also a friend and served on WRFG's board for a while. But Jamil was accused of killing an Atlanta policeman, Ricky Kinchin, in 2000. And, you know, we knew already, we knew who, in fact, did this killing. It was not Jamil. It was Otis Jackson, and more recently, Otis Jackson, who is in prison himself right now in the Florida court, he admitted on video, actually, that he did this killing. So we're trying to get a new trial for Jamil right now. And one of the things that we're also trying to do is all over the country to have people interview some of the folks involved in the civil rights movement who knew him. So anyway, I'll get back with folks about that as well. But there's a lot of work going on right now about attempting to have a new trial for him here in the city of Atlanta. He's right now in a federal prison in Arizona. And so I want to tell you all quickly also, when he was first in prison, he was at the Reidsville State Prison in South Georgia. And so the powers that be in this state prison wanted to isolate him. So they put him in the, what do you call it, the isolation, whatever, part of the prison. And he was right next to the fellow who was the head of the white supremacist group in the prison. And it turns out that the white supremacist guy became Muslim. He was just too influenced by Jamil. So the state of Georgia knew they couldn't handle someone like this, so they sent him into the federal system. Anyway, that's just some history of this. So, but that's one of the things there are quite a few of us working on right now is a new trial for him. So just wanted to share that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I think that's everybody. All right. Oh wait, there's a 1575 number. Did we get that person? Maybe they don't have microphone. Okay. Cool. Well, let's get to the main topic, which is backup power. Big thank yous to John Fox and Eugene. I forgot your last name. Eugene Beer, there you are. for helping us with that. John is going to give us a tour of what he has, and then Eugene can talk too. And I think Joseph also has some input on that we can listen to. And I will just add, generally we go about an hour, hour and a half. If someone needs to leave, it's not a big deal. Some people usually just put, type a message in the chat if you need to take off. And I also just want to apologize for snacking. Usually I eat lunch ahead of time, but today was weird, so I'm eating lunch. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna pass it over to John. And there, yep, got it.
Okay, we're live, great. So originally Stephanie had asked me about backup power, and then suddenly it morphed into battery backup power, which we really don't have much of here, although we're about to launch a project to make solar our primary source. So that's going to get interesting soon. But right now, we're pretty experienced with generators and various backups. And we're pretty proud of our record. We've never gone off the air due to a power failure in the 10 years that Res Radio has been on the air. And that's mainly because of generators and bridging units, which in the form of UPSs, which you're all familiar with. When it comes to putting yourself together backup power, you basically want to first assess the situation. What do you need? What's your goal? And where do you stand in terms of power usage? And one of the first things you're going to want is to audit your power use. And that's where a really cool little tool called a power monitor with recording capabilities comes in. And I'm going to be swinging the phone around here, so I hope you're going to see this. So that is, I believe, the brand that we have. This particular one's from Granger. I think I got it cheaper than that on Amazon. And were you able to see that? What that does is both measures your instantaneous use of any device that you plug into it, and it records over a period of time you set how much power you use. And one of the things you're going to want to familiarize yourself with is Ohm's law, which is an equation that says wattage equals volts times amps. So that is going to allow you to determine a total of everything you need, and then that will allow you to size your generation backup to match and hopefully exceed. And depending on how much you exceed that capacity is going to determine, if you're running on storage, how long you can run. So you're concerned both with kilowatt hours and kilowatts themselves, which is the actual usage, but kilowatt hours, which is the backup capacity. So the first thing that everybody needs and probably has is a UPS. And we keep them at every workstation. Here's the type we have, which gives you instantaneous readout of what you're using at that moment. And at every workstation, basically the purpose of those is whatever you're working on, if there's a power failure, this is going to keep your computer from dropping out and you're losing any work that you're currently doing. We all know that. You want to size them for your workstation. Generally, ours are 750 to 1500. And a very important thing to consider on these is if you have multiples, get a line of UPSs, or just make sure that all of your UPSs use the same battery. Because you're going to want to have a couple in backup. And they do need to be changed out every couple of years. That particular one, I've got a sticky note on the side of it. I think it's probably just about the end of its life for batteries. So you're going to want to have a couple of spares around. And if they all use different batteries, that's a pain in the butt. So now we're going to go outside. I'll show you the generators we have. These are pretty major generators, and they're expensive. This is a Kohler 150. And I'll get the specs for you when I go back inside. But it has about a 220-gallon diesel fuel tank. And you can run it from out here. It is also controlled internally in our station by a unit I'll show you in the transmitter room. That's the one for the radio station. This one right here is an even bigger 350 model, and it's basically
We lost you there, John. Maybe he'll come back.
for their power output. It really only puts out about 115,000 kilowatts. Now, it's important to know the specs of your generator. For example, this one uses 8 gallons per hour of fuel at full power. So at full power, 115 kilowatts, more or less, that'll run for 27 hours. At half power, it'll run for 51 hours. But that's a lot of fuel. That's, you know, what, $4,000 of fuel at least.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that last couple sentences? We glitched out on you.
Okay, beginning with what, the output of the 150?
Sure.
Okay. That 150, the smaller one I showed you first, is really about 115,000 kilowatts, more or less. Depends on exactly the power it's running at, and, you know, a lot of variables. At its full power, it consumes about 8 gallons per hour of diesel fuel. That means it'll run for 27 hours on the 220-gallon tank. At half power, which should be more than enough to keep the entire building running, it goes for 51 hours. The bigger unit, which is used for the building next door, we don't even tap into that one, can run for up to 100 hours.
Sandy was asking too, I think you answered her question. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Okay. Now, these are really expensive generators. Brand new, they run anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. We got ours donated by the Marine Corps. So look around and see what you can get in the way of donations. Used up to 10 years old, they're still $30,000 to $35,000 generators. Older than 10 years, you can probably pick up a generator this power for $5,000 to $15,000, but you got to be careful once you get more than 20 years old, not just for use, because most of them really don't have that many hours on them unless they're in portable commercial use. But you got to be careful at more than 15 or 20 years because the technology might be obsolete for remote control. And for most of us, remote control is pretty important. So at a previous station I worked at, we actually, the transmitter was powered by a generator. It was so far out on a mountaintop that it ran full time off a diesel generator. But the studios themselves were rented space in town. And for that, we used a Honda generator that I think was around 3,000 watts. And basically, it was manually plugged in to the building's power grid. Now, Honda generators are pretty expensive for what they are, but you can get one for about, that'll do about 3,000 or 4,000 watts from, say, Harbor Freight for about $400, which is pretty good. But that's with manual switching. That's with, you know, basically unplugging yourself from the grid to make sure there's no feedback, and then plugging your generator in and firing it up. And of course, this is where UPSs come in, because even with our automatic switching on these big generators you see here, there's still a drop of about a second or so before the generators kick in and come up to power. And that's plenty of time for all of your electronic equipment to shut down. And some of it doesn't reboot itself. So it's important to have those bridges of the UPCs everywhere. So now I'm going to show you the other room here where we have some more major UPCs. These are down at the bottom of our equipment rack. This is the one we just got. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. This one powers our backup transmitter exclusively, which was donated to us and just happens to be 208 volt. so I had to get a separate UPS for that. This one we just purchased to replace a failed unit, and this one is lithium-ion technology. This is 1,500 watts, which even with everything plugged into it, will keep us going for about 10 minutes or so, more than enough time to get onto generator power. You can size them up from this, but lithium-ion right now is limited to about 1,500, 2,000 watts. They just aren't making big ones yet. This one down here is 3,000. The advantage of lithium-ion is maintenance and overall cost. They cost about 30, 40% more than standard batteries, UPCs that you probably already have. But the batteries will last for 10 years. Some of them even come with 10-year warranties. And your overall cost is going to be less because you don't have to replace the batteries, and you don't have to worry about replacing them. You don't have to deal with that job popping up every couple of years. So that particular unit, I think, was close to $2,000. A similar standard battery technology unit would have been about $1,400. You know, if you've got the cash, in the long run, it is going to save money. So that's what powers the rack, the transmitter rack, all the processing, the EAS equipment, everything in the switchover from grid power to generator power. Oh, I forgot to show you the generator controller as well. That's back in the other room again.
Along that line, we have a question. Do you need an electrician to create the means to disconnect your building from the grid and be able to plug in that Honda to power the building?
If you really know what you're doing, you can, but for liability reasons, I would recommend an electrician. So this is the controller for the small generator I showed you outside. This can be programmed to test it, and we have it set for weekly intervals, run at 10 minutes once a week. Also, this is where you would manually switch from grid to generator power. So, and that's something you should test as well. That cannot, at least with this one, cannot be automatically done. But what you would do is fire up your generator, come in here and manually throw the switch, taking you off the grid and onto the generator. And you should test that once in a while because this particular one did fail about a year ago. So this is a brand new controller right here within the past year. You need to do maintenance on your generators. About 8 years ago, San Diego County had a massive power outage that knocked out the entire county, some of Imperial and Orange County as well. About 3 million people lost power. And less than a third of all radio station transmitters stayed on the air in our area. We were one of them. But the reason for the poor backup capability of radio locally at that time was twofold. First off, some stations didn't test their equipment. A few didn't have any backup equipment, but some didn't test it, and some were not allowed to test because of air quality management district rules. One of the things I didn't mention about those big generators, and if you buy or either a new or used one, is these days propane is a lot more prevalent in major backup generators for just that reason in areas with air quality problems. So San Diego County did not allow some of its radio stations to test their diesel generators. They could have them and they could run them in emergencies because pretty much anything goes in an emergency, but they weren't allowed to test them, and several of them failed. So you need to test. That's something that we have contracted. Again, for liability reasons, I would kind of like to skip the monthly expense, which is about $150, I think. Because, well, first off, I can automatically test with the controller, and the actual switching between grid and controller, testing has to be done manually inside the building anyway, and our monthly service doesn't do that. Basically, they just come out, look at the machine, run it for a few minutes, actually about 15 minutes, log it, and recommend any maintenance. Most of which you can do yourself if you're at all, automotive mechanically inclined. But it's a question of liability and, accountability as far as having a service do it. As far as our backups, I think that might be most of what I had to show you and tell you. So, questions?
John,
Yeah.
Eugene here. Yeah, we had a one of these portable Honda quiet operational generators, 2,000 watt, and like you say, they have to be tested and maintained with a vengeance because the gasoline gums up in the carburetor if you don't use it literally every 2 months or so. So we were told to drain all the gas out of it, with a siphon you can buy at the auto parts store. Drain all the gas out and then drain the gas out of the carburetor inside of it, so it doesn't gum up. And then have a 5-gallon can of gas on the ready if you need it. But once it's gummed up, you got to buy a new carburetor. I mean, it's terrible. And that's the Honda Inverter series, the P2200, which is about 1,700 watts rated at. Are you familiar with that line?
Not specifically, but I know Honda generators are wonderful. They are quiet. They're expensive. So unless you've got really good funding, I would really recommend, if you're going to go that way with a portable in the 2,000 to 4,000 kilowatt range, get a Harbor Freight Special. And as far as draining the fuel, I don't recommend it. A dry fuel system has its own problems. You want to make sure that the tank stays full and treat it with gasoline stabilizer.
Yeah, I did talk to the guy who's repairing mine, and he said the stabilizer really doesn't work well for you. But I had mine sitting idle for a whole year, and
they should be tested at least monthly. And of course, our big generators, like I said, we test them weekly.
Yeah. If you do that, you should be fine. Yeah, it's just it's hard to assign that to volunteers or whatever and make sure it gets done every month.
Well, that's why we have a service,
right,
but it's expensive.
Yeah. That's $150. Is that what you're talking about, the maintenance fee to test them?
Right, and that's just to come out, run it a little bit, see if there's anything wrong with it, and if there's anything wrong with it, any maintenance is needed, any belts, leaks fixed, batteries. Batteries is something that services make a lot of money on because first off, they way overcharge for the batteries. But secondly, they say, oh, it's this many years old, replace it. Now, granted, batteries do have a life and it tends to be fairly predictable. But if you keep them on a good trickle charger, they can far outlast what the service says they're good for.
Yeah.
And every time the service wants to replace a battery, first off, it takes 2 of them. They charge about $250 for the battery plus installation. So, it's the $600 job that you can do yourself with, sourcing those batteries maybe from the local interstate battery warehouse for about half the price. And the labor is nothing. It's so simple to do.
Wait, you lost me. You're not talking about the batteries inside of a UPS on a trickle charge. You're talking about what tied to the generator?
Yeah, for our big generators, we use basically, truck or bus batteries. But as far as UPSs, those are, you should be able to do those yourself too. And that's where I was recommending that you get a line of UPSs, either matching or from the same line that take the same battery so you can have a couple of spares on hand.
Okay. Thank
But they take care of themselves, the UPSs, and but you'll probably have to replace the batteries anywhere from 3 to 5 years at the most in UPSs, unless they're lithium-ion.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, we can always ask later too if you think of something. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Let's see, why don't we go to Eugene? You can tell us about what you know.
Okay. Well, after my experience with that generator, I decided I don't like generators. So we have a very small budget station, so we're trying to do backup on the cheap, more or less. Still not cheap, but so I'm going to talk about powering the transmitter, because I figure if we have a widespread power outage, people are probably not going to be coming into the studio so much. Well, the studio is not really the main power hogger. It's more the transmitter equipment. So just a real quick back of the envelope calculation for low power FM, which is 100 watts typically, effective radiative power. Depending on what kind of antenna you've got, typically the antennas would have a gain of 0.5, 0.5, or 1. Our antenna has a gain of 0.5. So the transmitter has to push out twice the 100 watts. In other words, 200 watts, plus loss in the coax cable, which is typically maybe another 100 watts. So the transmitter typically might have to put out 300 watts to get your 100 watt authorized power, radiative power. And the transmitter itself is only about 50% efficient. So out of the wall, in other words, you've got to supply the transmitter maybe 500 watts through the plug, the AC plug, in order to broadcast at your 100 watts. So that's what I designed our system for, was to power the transmitter basically without stopping in the summer when there's enough solar. But in the winter, we'd have to augment it with generators. So you can do a quick calculation. The transmitter, like I said, takes 500 watts. That's half of a kilowatt. So let's say you want to do the cheapest thing, and that's do a UPS, like John said, with a battery bank. Now, we have what you call a super UPS. It's a renewable energy product that can be used with solar panels or batteries. And one of the functions it can do is a 100 millisecond switch over as a UPS. So none of your equipment will really go down in 1/10 of a second. Let me show you what it looks like. I've got all this stuff kind of staged at my house, testing it out before we install it at the radio station. So it's sitting outside here. Let's see here. I want to get this. Hold on. Can you see the black box? Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It's about, if you stack 2 shoe boxes on top, one on top of the other, it's about that big. And that'll handle a 4,000 watt load or 3,500 watt load, which is plenty for all of the transmission equipment in our transmission hut, okay? And next to the inverter, it's called a Outback renewable energy inverter. Next to that is a lithium-ion battery of about 2 kilowatt hours energy capacity. 2 kilowatt hours would be enough to run that transmitter I was talking about, which takes half of a kilowatt, enough to run it 4 hours, okay? So if you wanted to run the transmitter overnight, let's say for 8 hours, you'd need 2 of these batteries. I'll switch around and show you the battery. You see the rectangular battery there?
Yes.
That's the lithium-ion battery. You can buy these from China, pretty cheap, but they're still $800 for one 2 kilowatt hour battery. But to go on the cheap, I use, I'm going to try to put this in another mode here. Hold on, I hope I don't lose you. I'm going to switch it to tablet. All right. These are lead acid battery banks. It might be hard to see this, I don't know. You see the 3 batteries there? They're brown colored.
Kinda, yeah, yep.
Yeah. Anyway, let me zoom in on one here. This is a Trojan lead acid battery, weighs 110 pounds. 4 of those, well, one of those is about equal to that smaller lithium ion I showed you. These batteries are $300 a piece, a lot cheaper, but they take maintenance. They're flooded lead acid, and you can't have them indoors unless you vent them. So that's why I put them outdoors, okay? They won't last quite as long as the lithium ion, but since we want to save money, we figured probably climate change is going to kill us all in 10 years. We're going to go with lead acid. So let me go back to the lighted area here.
So you keep your batteries outside? Do you ever worry about rain?
Well, the hut, radio station hut is an open eave construction. You know, the roof comes down and you have an open area where the roof meets the walls.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's what I mean by outside. And it's not a staffed place. It's just a small hut that only I go into when I need to. And the batteries have to be checked with their electrolyte level maybe once every 6 months or something. Then you add distilled water. Or you could go with another kind of battery that doesn't require the maintenance. It's also lead acid. It's called an AGM, Advanced Glass Mat. I have a bank of those also. They're called sun extenders. Kind of a cool name, a sun extender battery. And they're also more expensive, but they can be kept indoors. So to go back to the how you're going to build this thing, if you just want battery backup and no solar, okay, you're going to have to size your battery to power your transmitter basically 24 hours, you know, if you want it to last one day. So that's a pretty big battery. Like I said, 24 times half a kilowatt would be 12 kilowatts, which would be a couple $1,000s in batteries, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 in lead acid batteries. Now, what we're going to try to do is augment it with solar. Now that black box I showed you can take solar input directly from the panels and use it to keep the batteries charged. And if the batteries, if the power goes out, what happens is this black box, the inverter, will monitor the batteries carefully. And if the batteries get drained too low, let me back up. the black box, the inverter, will draw on the solar panels all the time to power the transmitter. And then as a secondary backup, it draws on the batteries if the solar power isn't enough to power the transmitter. And then as a third backup, it will go to the grid to power the transmitter. But if the grid is down, that's where we can have a generator in place as a backup grid. But the way that I hope to design it is to have enough solar to run it basically overnight during the dark hours with the battery bank of what I said, $2,000 to $3,000. By the way, that inverter box, the black box, is $1,700. And it is a solar energy product, so you can buy it at any solar energy retail outlet, internet outlet. As far as the cost of this, what we want to do with the solar is to size it so that we don't have too much solar that has to be fed back into the grid. Basically, we want to size it so that it's all used by the transmitter. In other words, all of the sun's energy is powering the transmitter and not going back into the grid with grid tie. Because with grid tie, you got to fill out a lot of paperwork. It also has to be inspected by the city, and you got to pay for that. And I just as soon, let me get back to the chat here. I did that with my home system. I have grid tie. It's just a fair bit of work, at the outset. I mean, it's not horrible. It depends what state you're in, At the time I did it, it wasn't too bad. They didn't actually inspect anything other than the fireman's disconnect. In other words, if you do have a fire, that they don't want to get electrocuted on your roof from the solar panels. So that's something you want to have. As far as sizing for a single transmitter for low power FM, you can do it with maybe 6 to 10 solar panels. A solar panel these days costs about 50 cents a watt, and 10, let's say 12 solar panels would be 4,000 watts of solar. So that would cost about $2,000 for the solar panels. I'm just ballparking a lot of these figures out here. $2,000 for the solar panels, $1,700 for the inverter, and then the batteries maybe 3,000, let's say. So that's the kind of money we're talking about for covering backup on a multi-day basis in the summer, let's say 6 months out of the year. Okay. If you get a power outage extended in the winter, you'll need more. You'll need either way more solar panels or some kind of small portable generator to back it up. So that's about what I wanted to say. If anyone has any questions. Anyone? Let me just say that it's being staged at my house, and then we're going to build it actually on the transmitter building, which is very small. It's the size of a bathroom, basically.
Well, it's exciting that you're using solar panels. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
do you have any legal restrictions? Do you have to have some sort of permit for that?
Well, our transmitter hut is not in the city of Columbus. There's a little parcel of land that's just in the county. So it's way less regulation in the county. So we're just going to put them on the roof and not worry about it. If it were in the city, we'd have to get a building permit. Yeah. See, with our antenna, which was built on the property, the 100-foot tower, we did have to get a county building permit, but it was far easier than having to go through the city, which we didn't have to do. We're literally 100 feet from the city line.
Anyone else have a question?
And well, let me just give my email. If anyone is thinking about doing this kind of backup system, feel free to email me. I'll put it in the chat too, but it's Eugene at WGRN.org.
Okay.
Eugene, what's your weather like there? How often do you have multiple cloudy days?
Good question. Let's talk about the summer first. I would say in July, I had 80% of the days were within 20% of full solar. 80% of the July days, which is very good. You know, you get cumulus clouds, but you know, they cover it up a little bit, not too much. In the winter, Columbus is notoriously cloudy. Officially, the Weather Service says that we get 50% of daylight hours in the winter covered with clouds. In the summer, we only get about 20% of the daylight hours to be cloudy. Now, with the solar in the winter, if you have an overcast sky, you can still get 50% of your daily solar, because the overcast sky diffuses that sunlight, so that some of the panels in the winter that are shaded by trees or whatever in the winter, where you get a lot of long shadows, those panels can still pick up the diffuse light very well and get maybe 50% of their output. So that's the story, you know.
Is there a big difference in efficiency in various panel technologies right now?
Well, that's a good question. Here on my home roof, I have about 8 different varieties of panels. I mean, it looks horrible. I think it looks cool, but people walking down the street think, why does every panel look different? You know, the latest technology is something that REC is the name of the company. They put out a panel that is not so, well, okay. Differential shade is a big issue at our transmitter site because we have a lot of trees there. So a panel might be half shaded, you know. So a lot of the newer panels are what you call half-cut cells. Instead of 60 cells for a panel, they cut them in half and parallel them electrically, parallel them on each end of the panel. Each end, the bottom and the top, is a paralleled circuit so that the top is shady. It doesn't affect the bottom like the Christmas lights. If one goes out, they all go out. That's not true with the newer panels that are half cut. So you can recognize these half cut panels by, you know, they're 120 cells. You can count them instead of 60. And many manufacturers such as Q Cells, REC, there's some other Japanese and Chinese companies that do that, the half-cut cells. And the efficiency is like 20% now. In other words, the sunlight coming down on Earth on a very clear day is typically 1 kilowatt per meter squared. These panels are about almost a meter and a half squared. So you get on a clear day about one and a half kilowatts of sunlight falling on the panel, and 20% of that would be the electrical production from the panel. And you know, 15 years ago, the percentage was only 12%. So they made a lot of progress, 20%. In other words, 20% of the sunlight is converted to electricity. The sunlight's energy is now converted to electricity. Boeing has done research work where they can get 40% conversion, but the cells cost $200 per square centimeter. So that's not affordable yet.
And I may have missed it, but are you going totally off grid, or are you going to have the ability to switch back and forth?
We'll be able to switch back and forth. Unfortunately, where this transmitter is one of these areas of the city where they're building these massive 5-story residences, apartments, condos. We see this going in all over Columbus. They ain't quite figured out who's going to live in those $2,000 a month units, but we figure that the builders must know something, like either the people from the coast are going to be flooded out and they're going to move here. But so our power goes out a lot because they're always tinkering with these added customers on the street, with these high rises. And our power was going out every week, basically, for an hour, something like that. Yeah. Oh, people froze. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Stephanie, John froze. I think we lost John, whatever.
Oh, okay. He froze while he was talking too. Maybe he got booted off. Does anyone else have any questions for Eugene?
Stephanie, this is Heather.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Eugene so much for that presentation, because I've been also wanting to explore something more about solar power, actually, in the radio system. So thank you. I'm just thanking you.
Oh.
Sandy says thank you too in the chat.
I was passing through Atlanta years ago and stopped in WRFG. That's where you're from, Heather, right? RFG?
Yes, it is. Yes.
They put me on the air. It was a Sunday morning, and we were talking music, I guess. I was on the air for a little bit.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Is it 5? What's the name of the location?
89.3 FM.
I mean the street location, something Corners.
Yeah, what is it, 1583, right there in the Little Five Points area.
A Little 5 Points, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, one thing to say, real 30 seconds.
Sure.
I got a COVID test last week. I just wanted to get a test so I wouldn't be afraid of getting a test. And in Columbus, we have Abbott Labs. And so the test was called the Abbott Labs ID Now. And it came back in 24 hours. And when they swabbed my nasal cavity, she said, "Oh, we have new nasal swabs that just came in, and they're a lot less intrusive. And so they don't have to go as deep." And it literally just felt like being tickled by a Q-tip. It was no big deal at all.
Oh, that's really good news.
And I was negative, so.
Oh, well, that's even better news.
I just want to tell you all along that line, just a few weeks ago, I received a letter from an inmate in the federal prison system in California. And he was saying the treatment is I won't go into all the details of what he sent to me, but he said the treatment is just terrible as far as inmates are concerned and COVID-19 issues. So I'm thinking that we need to be looking at all the prison systems throughout America about this, actually. So just want to mention that as well.
That's a good idea. Everything I've heard about prisons is not great. Yeah. Is anyone doing any shows about prisons?
I'm not, but I intend to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. So Joseph, we have you yet to talk about your backup power. I know that you wrote in the chat here, you said, I'll have to know the specs of their generator. We are connected to it. It runs our whole station, minus the heater/air conditioners. It runs on propane. We also have solar panels for daytime use. No battery backup. These are old panels needing upgrades. And then you said, we had an electrician install an auto switch to go back and forth from grid to generator. Allowed us from running to the station in the middle of the night. I thought, well, I'll just wait to let you talk more about that when it was your turn, since you know more about it than me.
Well, you just said it all. Yeah, we had this back in 2004. I just happened to run across this Kohler generator, and I thought, wow, how much does that cost? I asked the guy, and he told me. And I thought, wow, I'll get a grant and I'll purchase this, because I was just looking for something for backup electricity, because we have power outages. We never know when it's going to happen. So I was trying to look ahead. So I wrote a grant to a local foundation, and they gave me, I asked for $10,000 to purchase this generator, and I told them why I needed it. And they gave me $11,000 because they said, you're going to have it installed. And I said, well, gee, thank you. So I had $11,000. So then after I got that, it was a propane generator, it's a Kohler. And the reason why I like that is because the casino next door has this huge propane tank, because they have a kitchen. So I thought, well, I'll just ask them if I can run a line and plug into that, because I'd only be using it when the power went out. So figure that would be okay. And in the meantime, I interviewed this tribal member who was a musician, and he had a couple of releases out. And so I was talking with him about that. And after the interview, he said, you know, my dad runs a solar panel business with a fellow in Oregon. And I said, really? So do you think you could solar power then run a station? He said, oh yeah, sure. So he asked me to add up all the amperage, get everything that we needed, what kind of power we needed, and I gave that to him, and he came back to me. He says, "Yeah, we can run solar panels for your station, run the whole station." And I asked him, "Well, how much would that cost?" And he says, $15,000. I go, "Wow, I got $10,000 in my back pocket right now, or $11,000, and I got a CPB grant that I have some discretionary money in. I could do this." So he said, "Okay, let's do it." So that's what I did. I went and asked the casino about hooking into their. Yeah, I had already talked with them about that. What they told me is that, and they asked me how big the generator was I told them. He said, no, that's not big enough. We want a huge one. We need a big generator. So they went to the tribal council and asked them if they could use some of their income to buy this big generator. And I had already talked to the council about buying a smaller generator. And so they said to the casino, okay, you can go ahead and use your money to buy this big generator, but you have to plug the radio station into it. So that's how we got involved with that big generator, which I don't know the specs on because I didn't purchase it. And then when we found out that we could run on that generator, we didn't need that generator. So then I found out about the solar panel. So I wrote to the foundation that was going to give us the money for the generator and asked them if I could switch it for the solar panels, so I would have power every day rather than just when I needed it. And they said, sure, go ahead. So that's how we end up getting solar panels in 2004, and we became the first radio station in California to run on solar panels or solar power during the day. So we have 20 panels, or 2004 models, and they run into a Sunny Boy inverter, and they reduced our grid power by 63%. So that reduced our grid power expense. At night we run full, it automatically switches over. It's an inverter crossover hybrid, so it goes back to grid when it needs to go back to grid. So that's our solar panel generator story. And oh yeah, the other part of it, when we did this in 2004, the state of California was given rebates, 50% rebates on the expense that you paid to install solar panels. So we got 2 grants to pay for the whole kit and caboodle and $7,500 back from the state of California for doing the job. So it was a very good year. And that's
Nice.
our solar panel story. Yeah.
It's a good story.
I'd like to get some new panels though, because like I say, there's 2004 models and we need to upgrade. And I agree with what Eugene said. There's better technology out there.
Does anyone have any questions for Joseph?
Yeah, Joseph, there are some solar outfits, one in Miami in particular, on electronics. They sell blemished panels, basically new, but they're called grade D because they've got scratches on the frames. I bought some of those and they were maybe 30% less price-wise. They put out the full power and they're warranted 25 years and everything. Just that they're somewhat blemished. On electronics in Miami. And I visited their outfit. They used to have a Phoenix store also, but they're slimming down in the pandemic. You can also buy used panels.
Well, I'll definitely have to do some shopping around.
Yeah. You can buy used panels that might be maybe 2 years old, 2 or 4 years old, which will be a lot more efficient than 2004. And the price would be half of a new panel.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Any other questions?
Well, that's my story.
Well, I just want to say thank you to, I think John had to leave, but thank you to John and Eugene and Joseph for walking us through what can be a complicated process. So very much appreciate that. Sounds like it's an ongoing complicated process from what it sounds like. So I think that's it. We can leave it there unless, does anyone have anything else they want to add and just in general, or? Everyone's got everything they need. Okay, well, good. I'm going to try and get in touch with William in Nebraska for next week to see if he'll be willing to talk. But I won't know for sure till maybe tomorrow. So that's all I have. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. As always, it's always good to see everybody. Yeah. And have a lovely Thursday evening.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I was listening to you. I was just on the floor
Thank
to
you.
with my back, but it was really interesting.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right, you too. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
See you guys.